So I was brand new to e-bikes and I saw this bike at Walmart. It was on the shelf. I had pretty much exactly enough money to buy it, which means I didn't have enough to invest in a better e-bike. And now let me be clear. I love this bike. I've rode it for 2 years. I'm so thankful for this bike, but here's the problem. So the problem with this bike is not the motor, it's not the battery size, it's not the controller, and it's not the brakes. All of those things are fine for an entry-level bike. The problem with this bike that makes it not worth buying is the fasteners, the screws, the materials that are used to construct the bike are insanely bad, okay? That's the problem. Look what happened here. Every one of these screws that connects this assembly to the motor has come out. They fall out when you're riding. The thing falls apart like a bucket of bolts. And then guess what? All of them are broken, except for this one stayed intact because there was no screw. This one's broken, it has the wrong screw in it. That was my bad. But all the other ones, I did put the correct screw. Funny enough, the wrong screw is the only one that has stayed in for a long time. All the other screws, not only, look, there's the screw, but the attachment around it has broken. All of these things break, all of the screws fall out. This is not the original screw that was in this position either. This screw comes from here. There was a random extra screw here. I was delivering food on this bike and this fell out. So this thing was full of chicken, and because those two screws fell out, this fell on here. And you might say, well, maybe there was too much weight in there. No, this is weighted for, I believe, 18 kilos. That's almost 40 pounds. This was not overloaded. This was just incredibly cheap materials. Once this breaks, how am I gonna repair this? I would have to get this piece replaced, which I don't understand how this assembly is constructed. I can probably take it apart, but I would need to replace this piece or possibly this entire assembly or possibly this entire motor. So at that point, it's a entry-level bike. So it was only like $900 Canadian. It's gonna cost probably $400 to $500 to replace the motor entirely. So at this point, we might as well just replace the entire bike, upgrade to a better bike. So here's the question now. So after taxes and everything, are you willing to spend close to $1,000 on a disposable bike? A bike you know that is going to break and be unfixable in at 2 years? Mine lasted 2 years. The fundamental problem with these bikes is an unfixable problem. The materials used to construct the bike, especially the screws, are garbage. They're cheap Chinese plastic metal. They're barely even real metal. Parts and labor is gonna be anywhere from $250 to $500 easily. And all that for a bike that was what, $900? Why not just put $500 towards a better bike? And here's the thing, look, I realize some people are poor. I was pretty poor when I bought the bike. I could barely afford the bike when I got it. And it did serve me well for 2 years. But I just can't, in good faith, recommend to someone who has almost no money, hey, you should buy this super cheap bike, delude yourself into thinking you have an e-bike now and you're an e-biker, and then in 6 months all the screws fall out and you're friggin' back to where you started and your money is gone. So here's my objective going forward. I'm gonna buy a new bike. However long that's gonna take, I don't really know. Maybe some generous people would help me with that. But either way, I'm going to get a new bike, and whatever bike I do choose, I'm gonna become an ambassador for that brand. I'm only gonna pick a brand that wants open communication with their clients and is ready to help you repair things, is ready to support you, and wants to foster a nurturing relationship. In conclusion, guys, I was uninformed, so I bought this bike. It was a bad decision, but it did last me 2 years. It's still rideable, but I'm not confident with it anymore. I'm gonna get a new bike, and I'm just hoping that this experience of mine informs you and helps you to avoid making the same mistake I did, which was buying the cheapest e-bike I could find only to have it fall apart 2 years later. It's better to invest in a bike that you know is repairable and you know is reliable. For my next move, I'm gonna invest in a proper e-bike from a real company, from a reputable dealer, and I would love to hear your suggestions of what bike should I upgrade to. If anyone wants to help me do that, there's a link in the description below, but I don't expect anything from anyone. This is my mistake that I made, and now it's my turn to clean up that mistake and get a new bike. So thanks for watching. Do not buy a hyper e-bike.